My roommate eats all my food, uses my stuff without asking, and now she's mad I didn't invite her to my birthday dinner. Living with a roommate should be fun, right? At least that's what everyone told me when I moved into college. But I quickly realized mine was the opposite of fun. She ate my food, always. My snacks, my cereal, even my carefully prepared lunches. Gone. Poof. Just like that. She borrowed my stuff without asking. My headphones, my clothes, even my favorite notebook once. And she had no concept of time. She'd be in the bathroom forever, leaving me late for class, or take forever to get ready and drag me into arguments when I asked her to hurry. I tried talking to her. I really did. Please don't take my food, I said once, trying to be polite. Oh, you won't mind if I eat a little, right? She said, smiling like I was the unreasonable one. It was exhausting. My friends started noticing too. They'd ask why I always looked tired or frustrated after hanging out in our dorm. I told them it was nothing, just life in college. But the truth, living with her felt like walking on eggshells every day. And now my birthday was coming up. I wanted a simple dinner with my closest friends. Just a few of us. Good food, laughter, no stress. But I knew my roommate would find a way to ruin it. I could almost hear her whining about why she wasn't invited or demanding to be part of it. So I made a choice. I didn't invite her. It felt selfish at first, guilty even. But deep down, I knew it was necessary. This was my night, my celebration. I deserved to enjoy it without her constant interference. I started planning with my friends quietly. A small restaurant, a few decorations, a cake I actually liked. The thought of her finding out made my stomach twist, but I tried to push it aside. I reminded myself that standing up for my own happiness wasn't wrong. Then came the messages. First, from her friend. Hey, she's upset you didn't invite her to dinner. Then from her directly, why didn't I get an invite? Are you trying to exclude me on purpose? My heart sank. I knew this was coming, but seeing her words made everything feel heavier. I wanted to explain. I wanted her to understand. But how could I make someone who constantly disrespects your boundaries understand that boundaries matter? That night, I sat in my room, staring at my phone, debating what to say. Part of me wanted to apologize just to stop the drama, but the louder part of me whispered, this is your life too. You get to enjoy it without her ruining it. I realized then, this birthday wasn't just about cake or friends. It was about standing up for myself. For once, I wasn't going to let someone else dictate how I felt or who I celebrated with. I took a deep breath, turned off my phone, and promised myself tonight would be mine. Would you have invited your messy roommate to your birthday? Or is it okay to celebrate without someone who constantly disrespects you? The week before my birthday, I tried to focus on the good stuff, picking the restaurant, sending invites, planning what I actually wanted. Every message to my friends made me smile. I could see it. Laughter, hugs, candles, a night where I could just be me. But then the reality hit. My roommate. She was everywhere, in every hallway, in every conversation, as if she could sense I was planning something without her. She'd ask questions about my plans, drop subtle hints about her favorite restaurants, her must-have desserts, trying to insinuate she should be included. I tried to ignore it, pretend she didn't exist, but the more I ignored her, the more she pushed. The messages started coming earlier. You didn't tell me your plans? Should I just assume I'm not invited? Are you keeping secrets from me? I wanted to scream. I wanted to type, yes, you're not invited. You're exhausting, inconsiderate, and I need one night without drama. But instead, I stayed calm, biting my lip, reminding myself, this was my birthday, my choice. So I planned secretly, carefully, every detail. The cake had my favorite flavor, the decorations were cheerful, and my friends promised to keep the night lighthearted. No mention of her. I felt a strange thrill, a little guilty, but mostly relief. Finally, I could celebrate without tension. Then came the whispers. From neighbors. Friends I hadn't even told. Did you tell your roommate? She's been asking about your dinner. It was like my life had become a stage and she was the critic, scrutinizing every move. The night of my birthday, I tried to leave early. I told her I was heading out with friends. She looked at me, smiling like she knew I was lying. Oh, have fun, she said, voice sweet, eyes sharp. I could feel the tension thick in the air. She wasn't just disappointed. She was plotting her little revenge in the quiet, subtle ways that only she knew how. As soon as I walked out, relief washed over me. For once, I wasn't waiting for her next move. I could laugh freely, talk freely, exist without feeling guilty for wanting my own happiness. But I knew this wouldn't stay quiet. By the second course at the restaurant, my phone started buzzing. A text from a friend. She's telling everyone you excluded her on purpose. My stomach sank. It was exactly what I feared. The drama, the accusations, the whispers that would follow me everywhere. I felt torn, angry that she'd turn it into gossip, guilty for even feeling happy. I glanced at my friends, their faces bright with smiles, and I knew I had to make a choice. Let her ruin my night with her manipulations or enjoy the celebration I'd carefully planned. I chose the latter. The candles were lit, the laughter was genuine, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But I knew this was only the beginning. The confrontation, the backlash, the storm she was brewing, it was coming, and I couldn't hide from it forever. Would you stay calm and enjoy your celebration, or confront someone who constantly tries to guilt you for setting boundaries? The restaurant was warm, the lights soft, the table full of laughter. For a moment, I let myself relax. Finally, a night that felt mine. But it didn't take long before my phone buzzed again. A message from Chloe, my closest friend. Are you okay? I think your roommate is talking to people here, and she's saying you left her out on purpose. My chest tightened. I tried to laugh it off. Ignore it, I typed back. It's my night. Let's enjoy it. But inside, I felt a storm brewing. Sure enough, a few minutes later, another friend came over, eyes wide. She's telling everyone you're being mean, that you didn't even care about her feelings. I swallowed hard. Part of me wanted to storm out and text her everything I'd been holding back. Every stolen snack, every borrowed item, every morning I'd been late because of her. But I couldn't. Not here, not tonight. I focused on my friends, on the chatter and clinking glasses, but my mind kept drifting to her, imagining her spreading her version of the story, twisting the truth, making me the villain. I knew I had done the right thing. I had every reason to want a night for myself, But guilt is sneaky. It crept in despite logic, whispering, what if you really hurt her feelings? And then I felt it, a pang of fear. Not for myself, but for my friends. They were caught in the middle, hearing her side before mine, seeing her charm and her stories without knowing the full truth. I didn't want them to think I was heartless. I took a deep breath, looked around the table, and decided I would stay calm, focus on my celebration, and trust my friends. If they knew me, they would understand. Still, the night was tense. Every laugh felt slightly muted, every conversation shadowed by the knowledge that she was working behind the scenes. I found myself checking my phone, my hands shaking a little, wondering what she was saying next, who she was talking to. By dessert, the cake finally arrived. My favorite flavor, decorated with little candles just like I wanted. I closed my eyes, made a wish, and for a moment, I let the stress slip away. But when I opened them, a new text awaited. You really didn't care that I wasn't invited. Everyone thinks you're selfish. I felt a wave of anger, frustration, and exhaustion crash over me. This was more than a messy roommate. It was manipulation, control, and a test I hadn't signed up for. I put my phone down, forced a smile, and dug into the cake. Tonight wasn't about her. Tonight was about me. But I knew the storm wasn't over. The gossip, the rumors, the drama, it was just beginning. Would you ignore the gossip to enjoy your night, or confront the person spreading lies immediately? The moment I walked back to our dorm, the weight of the night hit me all over again. My friends had tried to cheer me up, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. The texts, the rumors, the way she twisted everything. I opened the door, and there she was, standing like she owned the room, arms crossed, a small, tight smile on her face. So, she said slowly, your dinner went well without me? I felt my stomach twist. It did, I said carefully, keeping my voice calm. You didn't invite me, she whispered, almost like it was a question, but the look in her eyes made it clear she already knew the answer. I sat down heavily on my bed trying to think. I had rehearsed a million ways to say this, but now my mind went blank. I wanted a night with my friends, a night without tension. It's my birthday. I should be allowed to enjoy it without... I trailed off, unsure how to finish. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Without me? Oh, I see. You wanted to celebrate yourself, not consider my feelings at all. I flinched. Mia, I don't care about your feelings. That's not true. You always make me feel guilty, manipulate everyone around you. I needed one night. Her eyes narrowed. Manipulate? Really? I'm just upset. You left me out, Emily. You made it public that I wasn't part of your life. How am I supposed to feel? Her words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to defend myself, but part of me understood. She felt excluded, ignored, and humiliated. I took a deep breath. I didn't mean to hurt you. I couldn't have you there. You take my food, my things, my time, and I can't even relax around you. I needed space. Her shoulders slumped, but the bitterness was still there. Space? You think one dinner is enough to prove anything? You hurt me, and now everyone thinks I'm the problem. I felt a rush of guilt mixed with anger. No, you're not the problem. I have to protect myself too. I have to stand up for what I need, even if it means you're upset. We sat in silence for a long moment, both breathing heavily, hearts racing, minds swirling. It was messy, loud, painful, but real. Finally, she spoke, voice quiet. I don't like it, Emily, but I get it. Maybe you deserve your night without me, but that doesn't mean I'll stop being upset. I nodded. I know. And I'm sorry. I hope. Eventually, you'll understand why I did this. She looked at me, half angry, half hurt. We'll see. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a birthday dinner. It was about respect, boundaries, and learning to live with someone who constantly tests them. Would you draw strict boundaries with a roommate, even if it risks hurting them, or compromise to keep the peace? The night after the confrontation was quiet, almost too quiet. The dorm felt heavier, the air thick with unspoken words. I sat on my bed staring at my phone, replaying every part of the argument. Was I too harsh? Did I handle it the right way? I kept reminding myself she had crossed every line for months. Her constant borrowing, stealing, and guilt-tripping had made my life stressful. One dinner night couldn't erase all of that. Still, guilt crept in, like it always does. I had left her out, made her feel unwanted. Even though I knew I deserved a night for myself, even though I had every right to celebrate with my friends, part of me felt bad. The next day, she was quiet, not angry, not sweet, just silent. Her behavior hadn't changed much, but there was a shift. She didn't make snide remarks or texts, accusing me of being selfish. I wondered if this was her way of processing what I had said. My friends noticed too. They asked if everything was okay, and I admitted cautiously that yes, we had a confrontation. They didn't judge. Instead, they said they admired how I stood up for myself. It was reassuring, knowing they understood the pressure I'd been under. I also started noticing small things, like how much mental energy I had regained. I could focus on my schoolwork, my own projects, my friends without constantly feeling anxious. It was freeing, but it also reminded me that asserting boundaries comes with consequences. Some people won't understand, and some relationships will strain. She started spending more time outside the dorm, maybe with her own friends, maybe just giving me space. I didn't feel joy from this, and it wasn't a victory over her. It was relief, a breathing room I hadn't realized I needed. I reflected on the birthday dinner. Even with the texts, the rumors, the tension, I had celebrated, truly enjoyed myself, without her presence. It was empowering to see that my happiness didn't depend on her approval. I had made a choice for myself, and I had to live with it, no matter how messy or uncomfortable it felt. That night, lying in bed, I thought about the lessons learned. Boundaries are necessary, but they're fragile. Standing up for yourself is hard, and sometimes people will push back in ways that hurt. But staying silent doesn't make life easier. It just builds resentment, frustration, and stress. I realized that this was a turning point. Not just about a birthday, not just about a roommate, but about recognizing my own worth and refusing to let someone undermine it. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And maybe, over time, we could coexist. Messy, imperfect, but respectful of each other's space. Have you ever set boundaries with someone close to you and felt guilty, even when you knew it was the right thing to do? A week after my birthday dinner, I thought I could finally breathe. I'd stood my ground, confronted my roommate, and for a moment, it felt like things might settle. But then came the whispers. It started subtly. A friend mentioning, I heard she said you didn't invite her because you hate her. Or a casual question from someone in class. Did you really leave her out on purpose? My stomach twisted. I knew my roommate had a way of turning everything into a story where she looked like the victim. And now, my friends, the ones I trusted, were hearing only her version. I tried to brush it off. I reminded myself I had been honest, I had boundaries, and anyone who truly knew me would understand. But it wasn't that simple. One afternoon, Chloe pulled me aside, her expression anxious. I don't know what's going on, she whispered. Some of the group is starting to side with her. They think you were really mean. I felt panic rising. I'd spent months planning this dinner, trying to protect my happiness, and now it felt like it was slipping out of my hands. I wanted to text my roommate, tell her to stop spreading lies to tell the truth, but I knew that would just start another argument. So I did what I could. I stayed calm. I explained my side quietly to my friends when they asked. I didn't mean to hurt her, I said. I just wanted one night to celebrate with friends. That's all some understood. Some didn't. And some, I realized painfully, didn't care. Meanwhile, my roommate seemed to enjoy the chaos she created. She walked through the dorm like nothing was wrong, smiling as if she hadn't just manipulated everyone's perception. Every time I saw her laughing in the hall, I felt a stab of frustration and exhaustion. I began questioning myself. Had I overreacted? Should I have invited her despite everything? Was I being selfish or was she just toxic? But then I remembered the nights I had stayed up crying because she ate my snacks, borrowed my things, and made me feel invisible. I remembered the anxiety I felt at every knock on our door, and I realized no amount of gossip could erase the fact that I had a right to my happiness. I took a deep breath and decided to focus on what mattered, my friends who believed me, my own life, and my own boundaries. Rumors would fade eventually. People who mattered would see the truth. That night, I sat in my room, looking out the window at the campus lights. I felt exhausted, but also determined. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, but it's necessary, and I wouldn't let her manipulation steal my voice, my joy, or my sense of self. Would you try to defend yourself against rumors, or focus on keeping your own peace even if others believe lies? By mid-semester, I felt like I was constantly walking on a tightrope. Every knock on the door, every laugh in the hallway, every casual question from a friend felt like it could explode into another conflict. My roommate's gossip wasn't just annoying, it was toxic. People were starting to believe her version of events, and I felt powerless watching my reputation twist under her words. But more than that, I was tired, mentally, emotionally, and physically. One evening, I decided enough was enough. I wasn't going to let her continue undermining me. Not my happiness, not my boundaries, not my life. I waited until she was in the room, headphones on, music blasting, probably pretending she didn't know what I wanted. I took a deep breath and spoke up, calm but firm. Can we talk? She pulled off her headphones, eyebrows raised. About what? About your behavior. The gossip. The way you're twisting everything that happened on my birthday, I said. Her face shifted, a mixture of guilt and defensiveness. I'm just upset, okay? No, I said, louder this time. You're not upset. You're manipulating everyone. You're taking one night and turning it into a story that makes me look like the villain. That's not okay. Her lips pressed together. I just wanted to be included. You left me out on purpose. That's mean. I left you out because I needed a night to celebrate without stress, I replied. I'm allowed to have boundaries. I'm allowed to protect my own happiness. You constantly take my food, my stuff, my time, and now you're trying to make me feel guilty for existing on my own terms. Her shoulders slumped slightly. I didn't realize it felt like that. Exactly, I said, softer now. You didn't realize because you've been so focused on what you want that you never think about how your actions affect others. I care about you, but I won't sacrifice my sanity or joy to make you feel included every single time. Not anymore. She looked down, quiet for a moment, and I felt a tiny relief. Maybe, just maybe, she understood. Maybe she'd finally see that boundaries aren't attacks, and happiness isn't selfish. I guess I can try, she murmured. That's all I ask, I said. Just try. And please don't twist things with our friends. If you're upset, talk to me. Don't gossip. We can figure it out like adults. She nodded, and for the first time in months, I felt like there was a chance for peace. Not perfect peace, not instant friendship restored, but a possibility of coexistence without constant stress. I realized then that standing up for yourself isn't about winning arguments. It's about drawing lines, protecting your energy, and demanding respect. And sometimes, that means confronting someone multiple times until they understand. As I walked back to my bed, exhausted but relieved, I knew this wasn't the end of our story, but it was the moment where I finally reclaimed my voice, my space, and my right to be happy without apology. Have you ever had to confront someone repeatedly to protect your boundaries, and did it finally make a difference? The days after the confrontation were different. Not dramatic, not perfect, but quieter. My roommate no longer sent snide texts about my birthday dinner. She didn't smirk when I walked past, didn't make those small remarks that used to make my chest tighten. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it felt like a shift. I started noticing little things. She asked before borrowing my things. She laughed with our friends instead of turning them against me. She still had her quirks, of course. She was my roommate after all. But the constant tension that had hung over me like a cloud was lifting. I realized that boundaries, once enforced, can teach people how to treat you. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instant. It was messy, awkward, and full of uncomfortable conversations. But change, even small, is progress. I also reflected on trust. I had to remind myself that trust isn't something you hand out freely after someone has repeatedly crossed the line. It's earned, slowly, carefully. And maybe that's okay. Maybe life isn't about everyone being perfect. It's about finding balance, learning who respects you, and giving space for growth. One afternoon, she approached me while I was studying. I wanted to say thanks, she said softly. For what? I asked, cautious. For actually being honest with you? I guess. I hadn't realized how much I was taking over your space. I'm trying to be better. I blinked, surprised at the sincerity. Thank you, I said, smiling faintly. I appreciate that. It's not easy to hear, but it matters. That night, I thought about forgiveness. Not forgetting, not excusing, but recognizing effort and choosing to move forward. I didn't have to feel warm and fuzzy about everything she did, but I could appreciate her willingness to change. I also reminded myself, happiness is my responsibility. I can't control her completely, nor can I control what others think, nor how she reacts. All I can do is protect my boundaries, stay honest, and focus on the life I want to live. Slowly, peace began to seep back into my daily life. I could walk into the dorm without dread, talk to my friends without second guessing, and even share space with my roommate without constantly bracing for the next drama. It wasn't perfect. We still had disagreements, still had moments of tension, but the storm had passed, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe, truly breathe. I realized that standing up for yourself, enforcing boundaries, and confronting difficult situations isn't selfish. It's survival, growth, and self-respect. And sometimes it even opens the door for people to reflect and change, in their own time, in their own way. Have you ever seen someone slowly change their behavior after you set firm boundaries, and how did it make you feel? The weeks that followed were calmer, quieter, and for the first time in months, I felt like I was really living in my dorm instead of surviving it. My friends laughed easily around me again. We went out for coffee, studied together, shared late-night talks without the shadow of gossip looming over our heads. It was normal, but normal felt like a luxury after the chaos of the past months. My roommate, too, seemed to be adjusting. She asked before borrowing my things, gave me space when I needed it, and even complimented the decorations from my birthday dinner, quietly, without the usual bitterness. It wasn't perfect. We still had our disagreements, but there was respect now, a fragile, tentative respect that hadn't existed before. I realized something important. Boundaries are not walls. They aren't meant to isolate you or punish others. They are guides, lines that protect your energy, your happiness, and your peace of mind. And when enforced consistently, they can change the way people interact with you, sometimes slowly, but change is still change. I also reflected on patience. Living with someone difficult isn't about instant solutions. It's about weathering storms, confronting problems honestly, and giving space for growth. Sometimes that means standing firm even when it's uncomfortable. Other times it means letting go of small grievances to keep the bigger picture in focus. I even found myself laughing at moments that would have frustrated me before, like when she borrowed my cereal but returned the box empty, without the usual attitude or excuses. It was small, insignificant, but it felt like a victory, a sign that coexistence didn't have to be a constant struggle. Most importantly, I felt confident in my own choices. I didn't need to seek approval from her or anyone else to feel happy. I could celebrate my victories, my birthdays, my achievements, my life, fully, freely, without guilt. And if someone crossed the line, I had the tools to confront it without losing myself. That night, lying in bed, I thought about all I had learned. Boundaries are strength, honesty is power, self-respect is non-negotiable, and even messy, complicated relationships can teach you invaluable lessons about patience, communication, and resilience. I closed my eyes with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in months. For once, I wasn't worrying about what she would do, what she would say, or how others would perceive me. I was living my life, making choices for myself, and finally, enjoying my space, my dorm, my friends, my happiness. It wasn't perfect. It never would be, but it was mine, and that was enough. Have you ever experienced peace and growth after setting boundaries with someone difficult? How did it change your life? By the end of the semester, I felt different. Not in a dramatic, flashy way, but quietly, steadily. I had survived the chaos, confronted the tension, and reclaimed my peace. And in the process, I had learned more about myself than I ever expected. Living with my roommate had been a challenge in eating my food, borrowing my things, stirring gossip, testing my patience every day, but it also taught me something invaluable. Boundaries aren't optional, they're essential. They aren't walls meant to isolate or punish, but shields that protect your energy, your happiness, and your sense of self. I reflected on confrontation. It isn't always pretty or easy. Sometimes it's messy, exhausting, and emotional. Sometimes people push back, twist your words, or try to make you feel guilty. But confrontation, when done honestly and calmly, can change the dynamic, sometimes gradually, sometimes in ways you don't immediately notice. I also realized the power of self-respect. For months, I let her behavior affect my mood, my friendships, my happiness. Once I chose myself, my joy, my boundaries, my peace, I finally felt in control of my life. It wasn't selfish. It wasn't mean. It was necessary. And slowly, things shifted. My roommate began respecting my space. She even made small gestures of consideration, asking first, apologizing subtly, and sometimes laughing at herself instead of at my expense. It didn't erase the past, but it made the present manageable, and that was enough. I looked at my friendships, too. The friends who stayed, who listened, who understood, they mattered. They weren't swayed by rumors. They valued honesty, transparency, and respect. And that reinforced another lesson. Your circle reflects your choices. Choose people who lift you up, not pull you down. Most importantly, I learned that life isn't about perfection. It's about balance. Between asserting your needs and being empathetic, between protecting your space and being patient, between standing firm and allowing others to grow. And sometimes it's about surviving messy, frustrating, and complicated relationships without losing yourself. As I packed up my room for the end of the semester, I felt a quiet pride. Not pride in winning an argument or in making my roommate see the truth, but pride in myself, for standing up, for staying calm under pressure, for valuing my happiness, and for learning that peace isn't given, it's claimed. I knew we wouldn't be perfect roommates. We wouldn't always get along, but now we could coexist with respect, boundaries, and an understanding that our lives didn't need to collide in chaos. And that I realized was the best lesson of all. Boundaries, honesty, and self-respect don't just protect you. They allow you to grow, to enjoy life fully, and to reclaim your voice, even in the most challenging situations. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. College, roommates, birthdays, drama. It had been messy, exhausting, and emotional. But I had learned, I had grown, and I had finally found my balance. And that was worth everything. What's the most important lesson you've learned about boundaries, respect, or standing up for yourself in difficult relationships?